If you are a UK company using a US-based email marketing supplier, then there are some big changes coming your way this year. On May the 25th this year, the law is changing regarding how you collect, store and use your contacts' private information. This new law is called GDPR. This stands for General Data Protection Regulation. One of the principal areas affected by this is email marketing. There are quite a few web-based email marketing software solutions that make it easy for you to log in, upload your contacts and send them a mailer. Over the past few years, these applications have become incredibly popular. Lots of these are based outside of the UK, and some of the most popular are based outside of the EU. It is important to bear in mind that if you're using a service provider that is based in the US, for example, when you upload your customer data to their servers, you are exporting your contacts' private information to another country. By exporting your data this way, you are leaving the protection of the UK and EU laws, designed to protect the privacy and rights of your customers and subscribers. What does the EU say about offshore suppliers? The EU says, transfers may be made where the Commission has decided that a third country, a territory or one or more specific sectors in a third country or international organisation ensures an adequate level of protection. So GDPR does not prohibit you from using an overseas/US supplier, for example. But the destination country for your data needs to have data protection regulation in place that has been ratified by the EU. They also say individuals' rights must be enforceable, effective legal remedies for individuals must be available following the transfer. This means that an adequate and approved framework must be in place so that legal channels exist that EU citizens can pursue them if they feel that their personal data has been misused by the overseas company holding it. What view does the EU take on US companies? Well, it's been an interesting few years regarding the frameworks that the US have had to put in place to regulate the use and transfer of private data. Up until a few years ago, there was an agreement called the Safe Harbour Agreement in place. This agreement did not adequately cover the rights of EU citizens according to the EU, so it was therefore not recognised as an adequate level of cover. In the summer of 2016, the US launched Privacy Shield. This agreement would hopefully meet the approval of the EU. At this point, there is no formal agreement in place that met the agreement of the EU. Safe Harbour had completely broken down over that period. So, is Privacy Shield recognised by the EU? The EU have said that they will recognise Privacy Shield if it incorporates the following provisions. Strong obligations on companies handling Europeans' personal data and robust enforcement. Clear safeguards and transparency obligations on US government access. Effective protection of EU citizens' rights with several redress possibilities. To date, these provisions specified by the EU have not been confirmed by the US. This means that at the time of researching this topic, Privacy Shield, whilst agreed in principle, does not offer the scope of protection that GDPR requires, and has therefore not been ratified by the EU. What does this mean for UK companies using US suppliers? Well, if nothing changes, then when GDPR goes live in May, it means that any UK company storing personal data in the US will technically be in breach of GDPR. So, if you're a UK-based company, before May, now is a good time to start having a look at where your suppliers are based. If a supplier is storing your customer data in the US, then it's time to revisit this before GDPR goes live in May. What are the problems that UK companies may encounter? Well, if you are using a US-based company, then the route for protecting your data from potential misuse by your US supplier is practically non-existent for EU companies. In this country, we have the full protection of the ICO. Any UK email marketing supplier will be registered with the ICO. This means that an easy access channel is in place should you wish to make a complaint or if you feel your data has been misused. The Daily Telegraph says, even with full compliance, storing your data in a different country can add complications to your business. For a start, you have the added problem that your data is subject to foreign law enforcement agencies and laws. This may mean that you have to deal with legal challenges and law enforcement agencies that you find it difficult to communicate with. Checklist for a new supplier. Okay, so if you're currently with a supplier based outside the GDPR zone, then perhaps it's time to make a start looking for a GDPR compliant supplier. Sometimes, even if a company is based in the UK, they may use servers that are based in the US still. This constitutes a breach of GDPR as your data is leaving the country. With that in mind, we've put together a handy checklist of questions to ask. Can you please tell me where your servers are based? Can I see your certificate of GDPR compliance? Do you subcontract any part of your service to a third party? Do you have an appointed data protection officer? Are you registered with the ICO? Does your data center hold any ISO accreditations? Okay, so there we are. At this time, the EU do not have sufficient comfort that the American-developed Privacy Shield covers the rights of EU citizens or offers a recognised route should they feel that their data has been misused. Because of this, it has not been ratified. So, in order to get ready for GDPR in May, have a quick double check that your cloud service provider is GDPR compliant.